I'm Rick Bishop, Vice President for Enrollment at the university, and I'm here with our colleague.
Jen D'Amico, I'm the benefits manager here for the university.
Okay, and then I'm going to share my screen here. And oops. Okay, so we are here to talk about two things this morning, the faculty staff tuition waiver. I will turn it over to Jen in a minute, who will kind of run through the human resources side of that world. I will talk a little bit about the admission side of that world, and then I will talk about tuition exchange as well. Whoops, back up. And I'm going to turn it over to Jen. I'm going to stop sharing my slide, let you share your slide.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just real quickly going to go over the benefit for tuition waiver should your student come to school here at Case Western Reserve University. This is just an overview of the benefit. There's a lot of information out on our website, so I encourage you to go through it. But for our kiddos that come to school here, we will waive 100% tuition for undergraduate programs and 50% at the graduate level. And we waive up to 8 semesters if the student is going full-time and 120 hours if they are going part-time. And there are a few programs on campus that take longer than this for the students to complete, and we have ways to support them. So please just reach out with any questions as you work your way through this benefit. When to do it, this kind of the last piece of the puzzle. So your students applying to schools and then registering for courses, and then you apply for the tuition waiver here on campus. So it's something you'll do about a month before classes start for your student. And it is something that needs to be done by the first day of school when classes start, but you could do it anytime that month ahead of time. There are some key dates to watch for with this benefit, and I'll use this fall semester as an example. So those of us that are using the fall waiver because our kids are in classes now, should employment end with the university before October 15th, that waiver is revoked and it becomes the student's responsibility. So there's dates like this for each semester, and it's just something to be mindful of as you're using the waiver and managing your world and your students' world, right? The waiver application is now available through campus groups. So you can work your way through it. You would select that you're filling out a dependent waiver. You, the employee, faculty, and staff need to complete this form, not your student. So it's going to be completed under your login information, but you will include your student's name and their ID so we can waive the right tuition for them, right? And these are two websites that are really helpful. There's a lot of information. It's pretty deep about the waiver program. So I encourage you to use it and review it, but please reach out to us with any questions. You can reach out to me directly. You can reach out to the service center, and if they don't know, they'll patch you through to me. So I'm going to hand it back over to Rick, but I'll be online for questions at the end.
Thank you, Jen. I'm going to share my screen again. All right, outstanding. Okay, now on the admission side of the faculty staff tuition benefit, students can apply really for as an undergraduate under any of our deadlines: early decision, early action, pre-professional scholars, or regular decision. And they can apply as a first year, a transfer, or a 3-2 engineering student if they are coming to us from one of our partner liberal arts colleges. So really any admissions program students are eligible to apply for. And there's no limit on the number of students either from within a family, or there's no limit in terms of availability of the number of tuition waivers. what you need to do is complete the tuition waiver registration form, which you've already been pointed to. And there are a couple of things that I hear about the faculty staff tuition waiver. I often hear that, oh, whoops, got to go the right direction. That there is this fear amongst faculty and staff that we're somehow rationing the number of offers of admission to limit the number of tuition waivers. That is absolutely not true at all. I have never in my 16 years here had anybody say to me anything about the number of faculty, staff, children who enroll at Case Western Reserve or trying to limit it in any way. The admissions process for faculty, staff, tuition benefit eligible students is actually the most generous admissions process that we have. And if a student is applying for admission, and let's say the case that they apply early action or for the early decision program, a student who falls outside of our normal admissions parameters is then considered by the Faculty Admissions and Aid Committee in March of that year and notified with our regular decision students. So, anybody who, would not typically be admitted would then be deferred and they'd be picked up and reviewed again in March. Because we're really looking to find a way to say yes, because we know this is a very valuable opportunity for students. And if it is in the best interest of the student, we want that family to be able to take advantage of that. Faculty and staff children who are eligible for this benefit can actually request a pre-read. And this can be really, really helpful. My own son took advantage of this in 2019. You can have your student reach out to Bob McCullough at rrm3@case.edu. Send him a high school transcript. Make sure that transcript includes the student senior courses or include their senior courses with that. An SAT or an SAT if they plan on submitting testing or indicate that they plan on applying test optional, and the intended major of the student. And Bob will then review that along with our director of admission, and we'll let the student know either that they are likely to be admitted, and we only go as much as likely because we of course want to see that senior year performance to make sure everything is still on track, or they will let the student know that it will be likely referred to the committee. The full application would likely be referred to the committee. In that pre-read, nobody gets a, no, you're not going to be admitted ever. It's either likely to be admitted or likely to be referred to the committee. That can be really helpful for a student. If you get that pre-read and you're now sitting there in the middle of October and okay, I'm likely to get into Case Western Reserve, I'm eligible for that tuition benefit, that may change the number of colleges that your student is applying to. My own son took advantage of this, and it was very nice because he was sitting there, in October and could really limit his list to only places that he would go to other than Case Western Reserve. Okay. He did not come to Case Western Reserve, much to my disappointment. He actually took advantage of tuition exchange. So what is tuition exchange? Tuition exchange is a consortium of about 700 institutions that we belong to. It is not a benefit. It is not guaranteed. It is an opportunity to apply for a scholarship at one of the 700 participating institutions. We have students who come to us each year that we award a tuition exchange scholarship to, and the participating institutions do the same. So to be eligible, you need to be a full-time faculty or staff member who meets the eligibility criteria for the faculty staff tuition benefit. And again, that is determined as of the first day of Case Western Reserve's fall term for the academic year. You must also meet the dependent child criteria for the staff tuition waiver. Again, you are eligible, first-time transfer or continuing students, you could be eligible. And eligibility is verified each year. However, okay, let's talk a little bit about the scholarship. At public universities, and you're going to hear me use the word typically, or it depends, or it varies a lot. You really need to do your research with each individual institution. So typically for a public university, it's going to be full tuition for an in-state student. Typically, it's going to be half tuition for an out-of-state student. The University of Pittsburgh is very popular with our families. For private universities, it is either full tuition or for institutions where tuition is above $44,000, Tuition Exchange has set the minimum scholarship for fall of 2026 at $44,000. So, in my case, my son went to Skidmore College, and their tuition is more like our tuition, and is significantly above that 44,000. They awarded that minimum scholarship. In some cases, and the University of Southern California has been an example of an institution where they set that tuition, the scholarship amount higher than their actual higher than the 44,000. So again, it's going to vary from institution to institution, and you need to check with each university that your child is interested in. Make sure that you look carefully at costs, because in the case of a student coming here with that $44,000 minimum scholarship amount in 2026, our total cost of attendance for fall of 26 is probably going to be in the low $90,000. So this is going to cover a nice percentage of that. But if you're living on campus, eating in the dining halls, by the time you take into account books and other living expenses, it is still going to leave a family with a very significant bill to pay. Typically, when a scholarship is awarded, it is awarded for 8 semesters. But again, you want to make sure that you check with the individual college or university. And again, eligibility is verified each year. Okay, in some cases, we will have students who will move between a tuition exchange opportunity and faculty staff tuition benefit. Each semester of tuition exchange eligibility that you use reduces the benefit for the faculty staff tuition waiver by a semester. So combined, your tuition exchange and your faculty staff tuition waiver combined, those are 8 semesters. Okay, the process has changed a little bit. So if you've gone through this before, you're going to want to assume that you know nothing. Now, a student creates an account on the Tuition Exchange website. And I have the link in there, but it's super easy to just go to the Tuition Exchange website. They have completely revamped their website recently. It's much easier to navigate. It has much, much better information on the website now. It is important that the student set up the account, and the student set up the account with their email address, not a parent email address. Particularly if you have multiple students, this is going to cause problems at some point in time. Now, rather than you're having to go to Human Resources to get certified, Tuition Exchange then sends that information to Human Resources. They verify your eligibility, and then you're eligible for that Tuition Exchange scholarship. Each host school, or the schools that your child would like to be selected for a tuition exchange scholarship, makes decisions themselves. So every institution makes an individual decision about whether to award that scholarship or not. The Tuition Exchange Organization does not, and Case Western Reserve does not. It is the institution to which the student is applying. Okay, so once you're certified in maintaining eligibility, again, 8 semesters or 4 years, and that's 4 years within a 5-year period. And if you don't use that full eligibility within that 5-year period, then you go through that application process again to make sure that you remain eligible for that. Again, this is from our perspective of the university. An individual institution might set a different set of rules. They may say you're only eligible for, 8 semesters over 4 consecutive years. We're all allowed to make our own policies when it comes to how this actually works. And again, on the deadlines, students must apply for and be certified by July 1st, prior to that fall semester when a student is enrolling. However, sorry, and applications must be submitted by July 15th. However, most institutions are going to have much earlier deadlines, and you must adhere to those deadlines. So our deadlines at Case Western Reserve is, we really expect that to be done with the application for admission. So if the student was applying here November 1st for early action, then we expect that tuition exchange application to be in at that time. Do not, and I've heard directly from families who, despite warnings, have thought, oh, I don't want applying for a tuition exchange scholarship. I don't want that to hurt my chances for admission. And so they'll wait, they'll apply. Let's say they apply early action, they wait, they hear they're offered admission, and then they turn around and apply for a tuition exchange scholarship after that. An institution may or may not accept that application. They may say, nope, the deadline was November 1st. It wasn't in by November 1st. You're not eligible for tuition exchange. And so make sure every institution will set their own deadlines. Most of them are going to be before our deadline for you to apply and to be certified as eligible for that. So make sure you're paying attention to the deadlines at the institution to which your child is applying. Lindsay Sobek in our financial aid office is our tuition exchange liaison. If you have any questions, she is really the person who is best equipped to answer those questions. She can give you full information about that. If back when my son was in college, Nancy Isa was in the financial aid office, and every summer I would email Nancy and say, okay, just making sure everything is good with tuition exchange and I don't need to be doing anything, because I was paranoid because I did not want to have to tell my son that I had messed something up. And therefore he, had to take a semester out of Skidmore College, where he was having a terrific experience. A few pieces of advice. The more selective, more national universities, those institutions are going to be harder to get into and less likely for any given student to get tuition exchange in those environments. My advice, if you're interested in taking advantage of the tuition exchange scholarship opportunity, is to look pretty broadly at colleges and universities and be willing to do some research on institutions that you may be less familiar with. I'm just going to say, do you have, Jen, do you have the Q&A on your screen? Because I don't see Q&A on mine.
I do. We've had a few come in.
Okay. Yes, if you do have questions, pop them into the Q&A and Jen will read them out and we'll answer them.
Okay, so the first one is, will we receive slides after this webinar?
We will post the webinar on the tuition exchange website, so you will be able to see them there.
Thank you. Next, my daughter is a senior in high school, so have I missed the tuition exchange deadline for the upcoming year?
No. So now is exactly when you should be thinking about tuition exchange. Um, our deadline for certifying and then for you submitting an application isn't until the summer before she enrolls, but the colleges to which she is applying to, their deadlines will likely be earlier. So you want to make sure that now, as she's looking at colleges, she's looking at those colleges to see what the deadlines are and that she's meeting the deadline for applying to those colleges by their deadline.
Thank you. The next question for the tuition waiver, when should we apply for verification? When the student applies to CASE? You're welcome to call the service center or myself to see if your benefit's eligible for that at any time. We can help you with that. But generally speaking, if you're in a benefits eligible role, you qualify for the tuition waiver. But feel free to reach out and we can confirm it for you.
Yeah, and I found the Q&A, and I know I got an email from somebody who was looking at retiring, and I got to follow up with Carolyn Gregory to make sure that that person will retain that eligibility. I will follow up.
I will, well, okay, that sounds great. There is a question. I would like to confirm that the CASE employee's dependent child continues to remain eligible for tuition exchange once the oh, you just said
Yeah,
that.
I will follow up on that
Got
question.
it.
It's on my
Sorry
list.
about that. All right. Can you please repeat the last part about looking at less popular schools again?
Yeah, it just, if you're interested in taking advantage of the tuition waiver, the more competitive, the more applications an institution gets, the more competitive the tuition exchange scholarship is going to be. The tuition exchange website gives some information on how competitive scholarships are in some places. In some cases, it may only be 5% of the applicants who are actually awarded a tuition exchange scholarship. In other places, it might be 60 or 70 or even 100% of students who are awarded tuition exchange scholarships. So, I would encourage people, I encourage people all the time to kind of look beyond just the places that because there are a lot of really terrific colleges out there.
Okay, and do we need to get certified every year with CASE HR for tuition exchange?
Lindsay just takes care of that. Lindsay will reach out to you and just make sure that everything is good to go. So because the last thing we want is for somebody to lose it because of, we make a clerical error.
Mhm. I have a daughter who's a junior in high school. Can she submit a pre-read before senior year?
She can submit for a pre-read as soon as she has her final junior grades, because we really need those junior grades in order for us to do any kind of evaluation. So, once she gets those junior grades during the summer of her senior year, reach out to Bob and he'll be happy to do it.
Thank you. Someone's been told tuition exchange is not available for emeritus faculty, and is this true for the waiver as well? I can follow up on the waiver and reach out to you. If you can chat me your email, I would appreciate it.
Okay. And yes. Okay.
It was separate from the earlier question. We have someone questioning the deadline for a tuition exchange. They're understanding August 1st, and then is it later than July 1 with a July 15th deadline? Could you clarify that, please?
Yeah, the process has changed a little bit. What I would do is just make sure that you submit a tuition exchange application by July 1st, and then we're going to make sure that everything gets squared away by that July 15th. And again, virtually every school is going to have a deadline that is earlier than that. So you're not going to be worrying about this in the middle of the summer, because you actually are going to want to know if you're going to be eligible for a tuition exchange scholarship as you're making that decision. And most of these institutions will have May 1st reply dates.
Is the 8 total semesters inclusive of both undergraduate and graduate studies, or considered separate?
So tuition exchange is only for undergraduate. And so on the tuition waiver, and this does happen where a student might go to a school and then they use 4 semesters of tuition exchange. What would the rules on the tuition waiver be for graduate education in that case?
Then they could pick up and still use the 4 semesters. So it's in total
Okay.
for the waiver. Is the tuition exchange only applicable to those schools listed on their website or any school, public, private, for example, CSU?
It's only the institutions listed on their website because, we have to choose to participate in this consortium or not.
Is there, I think you've already addressed this, but is there a comprehensive list somewhere that lists other universities and their typical tuition exchange amounts?
I don't believe that the tuition exchange website lists that. At least it did not when I was going through this process with my own son. We had to go to the individual institutions to which he was applying to find that information out.
Mhm. Are students also considered merit need-based financial aid on top of tuition waiver and tuition exchange programs? Are they also considered for merit and need-based
Yeah.
financial?
So for tuition waiver, they are not considered for merit scholarships because they have that tuition benefit already. And for tuition exchange, for our students for students who are applying elsewhere, that is going to vary from institution to institution. Some may, others will not.
Does the full Case Western benefit include room and board or tuition only? It is tuition only. Is it possible to use the tuition exchange for universities not listed within the 700 affiliate schools?
Yeah, just those 700 schools.
For tuition waiver case, should we also fill the CSS application and ask to be considered for scholarships?
Yeah, you will not be considered for merit scholarships, but we do have families who, based on financial need, will be eligible for need-based financial aid. So that is possible. So if a family believes they may be eligible for need-based financial aid, they should complete the need-based financial aid application as well.
Thank you. Do you have to commit to case if accepted?
No. And we have, we typically end up enrolling maybe a third to 40% of the faculty, staff, children who are admitted here. Many will apply here. They know that's an option and they look someplace else. My own son did that. For some reason, he did not want to go to the same university where his dad worked after spending all of his primary, middle, and high school years on the same campus where his mother worked. He was looking to get away from us, and Central New York was great for him. Far enough that we couldn't just drop in.
Right. How does CASE know that a student is eligible for the waiver when the student applies? Should they mention it in the application?
The application does ask for your parents' place of employment. That is an optional question. Make sure that your child answers that question. And then we send a list to Human Resources of every student who listed Case Western Reserve as an employer over to Human Resources so that they let us know who is eligible.
Thank you. I think the rest we've answered.
Okay, yeah. We don't have any data on, how many tuition exchange scholarships are awarded elsewhere. Again, and yes, this is a time-consuming process because you've got to go to each institution and ask all of your questions of each institution because there's so much flexibility. That flexibility is great, for us as we're awarding tuition exchange scholarships to other students.